Assalamu alaikum. This is Megan Wyatt answering your question here at About Islam. So here's the thing that I want you to understand about your marriage. You've been together for 27 years, you said. In the past 12 years, you said that your husband's been lying to you and that there was involvement of other women, there was a porn addiction, and he lied about things and actually believes, according to what you wrote in your question, that it's okay for him to lie to you because he thinks these are the white lies that keep a relationship together. He's definitely misunderstood the idea of the white lie, as we say, because ultimately what he's done is completely tried to cover up behavior that is haram and sinful and is a violation of your marriage, and the boundaries with which he's supposed to honor in the relationship. What you need to understand, if you're really dealing with a man who's had a serious porn addiction, constantly talks and texts to other women, most likely in a sexual manner, and that has been ongoing behavior for at least 12 years. I'm actually going to argue it's probably been around for even longer than that, but maybe that's the amount of time that you've been aware of it. When you're dealing with an addict, which would be who he is, when you're dealing with a person who has some kind of an addiction, where their entire life is built around that high that they get, whatever it is, looking at pornography, the release that comes with it, talking to other women, getting someone interested, whether it's someone doing drugs, alcohol, anything. When you're talking to someone like this who's so entrenched in their behavioral patterns in order for them to cope with life, you're never interacting with a person who is, maybe I shouldn't say never, but in your case, if it's been ongoing for this long and all of the other things you said are true, you're dealing with a person who is not able to experience emotional intimacy. That's one of the things that addiction robs. It takes away from people. It takes away emotional intimacy. It takes away turning to that other person. It takes away turning to your significant other and being vulnerable and sharing emotions and fears and dreams and life. An addiction takes away a person's ability to deal with life in a healthy way, to be able to talk about things, to be able to exercise, to be able to eat well, to be able to sleep well, to be able to work well, and to be in relationships and do well there. So you're dealing with a person who really genuinely needs help. And so as long as he is entrenched in this life where one of his goals is to talk to that next woman, find someone else to talk to, probably have some sexual, release going on with these conversations, he's building his life around something, and it's not you. And it's not your relationship, and it's not your family. He's on a train that's just rushing until it crashes. And you are not going to be able to just get him off that train because you love him, because you talk to him, because you explain to him, because you nag him. That's beyond your power, because when a person is entrenched in negative choices and behaviors, they're the only person that can save themselves. Their family can be a support structure. Their family can help them. They can be there to believe in them. But they're the only ones that can actually get off that train by choice. And so a lot of women lose themselves trying so hard to be enough in order to get him off that train, to be enough to convince him that they're worthy of his time and his attention and his energy. But it fails, and it continues, and it fails even more the more they try, because again, you're not dealing with someone who's just looking for a relationship with their wife. You're dealing with someone who's entrenched in a set of negative, habits and patterns in their life, and as a result, they're not able to have a meaningful relationship. And so you mentioned the same thing with your children. You have a 26-year-old daughter, he's really mean and harsh to her. And so there's other issues now too. So not just with the addict's mind, you've got someone, again, who doesn't know how to deal with their feelings and emotions. And so you mentioned there was an assault previously, which I assume is physical. You've got emotional abuse going on. You have an unhealthy person that you are around. And an unhealthy person needs professional help. They need intervention. They need a structure to help them recognize that they are on a train and wrecking everything as they go, and in the end will wreck themselves and their own life. And so the question you have is, should you get divorced? Should you leave? And that is a question that only you can answer. Only you can decide what is enough for you. Only you can decide what you're able to tolerate and what you're willing to tolerate, and what is so detrimental to your spiritual, emotional, physical well-being that you cannot tolerate it anymore. And that is why every time someone looks at this question of divorce and they ask advice, everyone's going to give you, everyone's going to give you different opinions, because they're going to give you opinions based on their life experience or how they feel about the situation. But I don't know you and your financial situation, where you live, what the complications are if you stay, if you go. These are the details that you have to sit with yourself and really weigh out. But what's most important is to understand that in all of this time, at least about half of your marriage, which you've written, you've had someone who's not able to fulfill not just, your rights as a wife, but your needs as a human being. And so you have to ask yourself, are you willing to stay in this marriage for whatever reason? Can you tolerate that? Can you live with that? Is this something that you think is better? Are you wanting to try to fight for it more? Do you want to fight with him to get intervention, to get counseling? Do you want to keep at that? You mentioned that there is a local imam that maybe you could talk to, but then you're afraid of his reputation. The thing is, his reputation at some point is going to be destroying him and your family if he doesn't get help. The way he's treating your daughter, the way that he shows up in the family. At some point, these things are going to catch up to him, and not in a positive way. And so one of the things that as Muslims we believe, the Prophet ﷺ said to help your brother, whether he's the oppressed or the oppressor. And he said that if he's the oppressor, we help him by stopping him from oppressing others or, oppressing himself. And so intervention really is going to be key here. So maybe he said he's not, into, looking at pornography anymore. But then what did he replace it with? If he's still, an unkind, rough around the edges, not present, mean person, if he's still talking to other women, my question isn't, about the fact that he left the pornography. It's what did he replace it with? Because anytime you have someone that's using an item as a way to cope with life, you can exchange the item one for another. But did that person heal? Did they get better? Are they now able to build meaningful relationships? Are they now present with their family? These are the real questions that we're looking at from your perspective in marriage. So maybe on an individual level, that's a celebration for him. Alhamdulillah, he left pornography behind, and that's good. He's no longer filling his brain and watching all these things and watching all this trash. That's good. But in terms of your marriage, it's not enough. And so he has to raise the bar even more, and there's more that's expected of him that he's going to need to do. And so no, you shouldn't have to deal with this. No, you shouldn't have to tolerate this. Of course not. But you're asking him to be a person that he has not been, if ever in his life, for at least a very long time. And so your expectations of what your marriage is going to look like without help, without intervention, have to be realistic, so that you're not expecting some magical change. You're not expecting something just to change overnight. You're not expecting that because you love him so much, or you were patient for so long, or you sacrificed so much, that he's suddenly going to get it. You have to have expectations that are realistic so that you can stay healthy. You can take care of your mental well-being, because it's the expectations that aren't met that can often cause the greatest pain. So maybe sit down with a piece of paper and just write things out for yourself. The pros of staying, the cons of staying. The pros of going, the cons of going. What you would be tolerating on both sides. What are new challenges you'd have to face? What are the old challenges you'd have to stay with? It's really helpful for people to write things down and just kind of get them out of their mind, especially when there's so much emotion, just to write things out so you can really decide and know which path you want to take. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease your affairs and guide you to what's best, and grant you the patience and the resources that you need in order to work through the situation that you're in. Assalamu alaikum.